Flock. Talk to them, my dog.
K-Flock has been found not guilty in the case of Oscar Hernandez's passing. Because of this, there is now news about when he might be released. Even though he was cleared of the most serious charge, he was still found guilty of 5 other charges, including possession and RICO violations. However, his lawyer is not too worried about these charges. He believes they will not have a big effect on Flock's future. The biggest worry in this case was always the charge about Hernandez's passing. Now that Flock has beaten that charge, it has changed everything. Reports say that the prosecutors sent a letter, and some people misunderstood it. They thought the jury had to decide if Flock himself believed he was in danger. This actually turned out to be good for him. It means the jury did not just look at the case from a regular person's point of view. Instead, they thought about how Flock grew up and how his background made him react in that moment. Since he was raised in a tough environment, he was more likely to feel fear when faced with danger. This helped his self-defense claim and played a big role in the not guilty verdict. Because of this, Flock was able to win the most serious charge. After hearing the decision, he made a call from jail and sounded hopeful. This ruling could bring him one step closer to being free again. After the news came out that K-Flock was found not guilty in the case of Oscar Hernandez, Lil TJ showed his support by saying, "Free K-Flock." Before the trial, Bobby Shmurda also spoke about it. He said that watching K-Flock go through this was difficult because he saw him as the next big artist from New York. "I love Flock," Bobby said. "I am wishing him the best. I am wishing his family the best, and I hope he beats those charges. He has a bright future, and it would be very sad if this was the end of his story." But we are not going to think like that. We have to stay positive. Even though K-Flock was found not guilty of the most serious charge, he was still found guilty of 5 other charges. This happened because one of his own people turned against him. Reports say that in 2020, K-Flock used a firearm against someone who had used one against his friend. The shocking part is that the same friend testified against him in court. The person who told on him was named Brockington, but on the streets, he was known as Dougie. However, he should not be confused with K-Flock's best friend, Dougie B. This Dougie was arrested for selling, and in an attempt to save himself, he blamed K-Flock. His testimony was one of the main reasons why Flock was found guilty of the 5 charges. To understand how this affected K-Flock's release date, you have to look at the case details. In court, the prosecutors asked Dougie, "After you got shot, who called you when you were in the hospital?" Dougie answered, "K-Flock called me. He said, 'You know we got you, bro.'" He also said that Flock told him they would get back at the people who attacked him. The prosecutors then asked him directly, "Did Flock shoot at them to get revenge for you?" Dougie confirmed it and said that someone was hit during the situation. The most important part of his testimony was when they asked if Flock had a firearm that day. Dougie said yes. He also confirmed that Flock had been on a call with rival gang members who were circling their block. This lined up with the events that led to the passing of Oscar Hernandez. Because of Dougie's testimony, the case against K-Flock became stronger, and he was found guilty of the 5 lesser charges. Even though he avoided the worst outcome, his fight is not over yet. His future now depends on what happens next in court.
What's it like for you watching the K-Flock thing happen? That's crazy. Next big artist coming out of New York.
I love Flock, so I like that. That's my guy.
Okay.
On December 23rd, 2021, K-Flock was charged in the case of Oscar Hernandez's passing. The court records explain how everything happened that day. Security cameras captured the moment when Flock was walking on the sidewalk with his sister. He was wearing a blue coat, a ski mask, and designer jeans. As he walked past a barbershop, Oscar Hernandez, who was inside, noticed him. Oscar quickly ran outside and shouted, "What are you looking at?" Since they had history with each other, things got tense right away. They started arguing back and forth. But instead of continuing the fight, Flock decided to walk away and ignore it. However, Oscar was not ready to let it go. He followed Flock, even though for a moment, it looked like he was about to turn back. As Oscar got closer, he reached into his jacket pocket. The moment Flock saw this, he reacted fast. He turned around, took out his firearm, and shot Oscar several times. Oscar fell to the ground, and Flock quickly ran from the scene. Witnesses immediately called 911, and Oscar was taken to a nearby hospital. Sadly, he did not survive his injuries. When police arrived, they found only shell casings and Oscar's shoes at the scene. At first, they had no idea who the masked shooter was. The NYPD released a blurry security camera image to the public, hoping someone would recognize him. This was when things went wrong for Flock. He had already posted pictures of himself wearing the same jacket before. Even worse, just hours before the shooting, he went on Instagram Live wearing that same outfit. It did not take long for someone to tell the police who he was. With a warrant out for his arrest, Flock did not wait for the police to catch him. Instead, he hired a well-known lawyer and went to the police station with him. His lawyer quickly released a statement, saying, "I went with Kevin when he turned himself in at the 30th precinct. As soon as I found out he was wanted, I arranged everything with the NYPD. We are now looking into these claims, and we will talk about bail once we have gone through the case and the DA's reports." Right away, Flock's legal team started working on a self-defense argument. His lawyer pointed out an important detail. When Oscar was found on the ground, his hand was inside his pocket, holding a loaded gun. This, they argued, proved that Flock had reason to fear for his life. Speaking carefully about the case, his lawyer said, "The government says he pulled first, but at the same time, the person on the ground had a loaded firearm in his pocket. If someone with a long criminal record walks up to you with a gun, it is very clear what they are about to do. Would you wait and take a chance, or would you protect yourself?" While the prosecution argued that this was all because of gang issues, Flock's defense team pushed hard to prove that he only acted in self-defense. This case was not just about the shooting, it was about whether Flock had a right to defend himself in that moment. K. Flock had always been connected to the streets, especially with his crew from the Third Side. Because of his fame, he held a lot of power in his neighborhood, and people looked up to him. But that fame also came with problems. His enemies were always watching him, waiting for a chance to go after him. The tension was always there, but things took a serious turn when shocking news came out. K. Flock had been hit with federal charges. The charges were not small. A grand jury had accused him of being part of a racketeering conspiracy, also known as RICO charges. These are the kinds of charges that are used to take down entire criminal organizations, and they carry heavy punishments. If found guilty, he could be facing a long time behind bars. As soon as the news broke, the hip-hop world reacted immediately. Fans, bloggers, and music insiders started talking about it nonstop. Some people posted things like, "K. Flock just caught a RICO case. It is really over for him." Others could not believe it was happening. DJ Academics, one of the most well-known voices in hip-hop news, also shared his thoughts. He posted, "The feds have officially charged K. Flock with a RICO case. If he does not beat these charges or work with them, he will face life in prison. On top of that, he still has state charges that are keeping him locked up." His words made it clear this was serious. If K. Flock could not prove his innocence or make a deal, his future was at risk. Many fans were in shock. Some hoped he would be able to fight the case and come home, while others feared that this might be the end of his career. A lot of people were also discussing how the government had been cracking down on rappers, using RICO charges to take down entire groups. It was not just K. Flock, many other artists had also been caught up in similar cases. For K. Flock, this was not just about music anymore. This was about his life, his freedom, and his future. His legal team knew they had a big battle ahead. They had already been fighting state charges for over a year, but now, with federal charges on top, the case had become even more complicated. His lawyers spoke out, saying they were not surprised by the new charges. They believed the original case against him was weak and that he had acted in self-defense. They pointed out that video footage clearly showed that he was trying to walk away before the situation escalated. But now, with these federal charges, things were much more difficult. Even though the situation was serious, K. Flock did not want his fans to lose hope. He knew people were worried about him, and he wanted to send a message. He wanted them to know that he was staying strong, no matter how tough things looked.
But so I saw some fans who were off at both me and academics after K Flock got locked up because
I know what is going on, man. It is Flock, he said in a message to his supporters. Listen, I just want to say something to my people. Hey, I will be back very soon. Shout out to my fans and my supporters. I love all of you. And to the young ones out there, focus on the right things, man. Stay on the right path. Do what you are supposed to do. Make the right choices in life and earn your money the right way. I will be back soon. His words showed that even in the middle of the storm, he was still thinking about his people, especially the younger generation. He wanted them to learn from his situation and stay out of trouble. He did not want them to make the same mistakes or end up in the same position he was in now. While his fans continued to show their support, his enemies saw this as an opportunity. Some people who had been against him from the beginning were now celebrating his downfall. They believed that this was the end of his time in the rap game. But his supporters refused to give up on him. Outside of the courtroom, people debated what would happen next. Some believed that the feds had been watching him for a long time and were determined to take him down. Others felt like he was being unfairly targeted because of his success. One thing was certain, K Flock's future was now in the hands of the legal system. The fight had just begun, and it was going to be a long road ahead. His team was preparing to challenge every piece of evidence, and his supporters were hoping for the best. But with federal charges, the battle would not be easy. No matter what happens, K Flock has already left his mark. His name is known in the rap world, and his influence is still strong. The question now is whether he will get a second chance, or if this will be the chapter that changes everything. Only time will tell. Flock's lawyers, however, did not seem surprised. They responded, "We have been fighting Kevin's state case for over a year now, so we were expecting this." The incident was clearly self-defense, and the original charge was not strong. But now, they're using it to push for a bigger penalty. If you watch the video, it is clear Kevin was trying to walk away, but the other man kept following him. Only when the other man reached into his pocket for a firearm did Kevin act to protect himself and his sister. Unfortunately, the court ruled against him on most of the evidence. Still, some people believed there was hope for Flock. A court reporter shared, "Day one of K Flock's trial is over." First thoughts? The prosecutors do not look prepared. They are stumbling over their words, struggling to answer the judge's questions, and failing to present strong evidence against Flock's self-defense claim. Flock is not the only rapper caught up in serious legal trouble. Authorities have been cracking down on hip-hop artists connected to street activity. Even Lil Baby's name has come up in federal investigations. One case in Atlanta was especially heartbreaking. Officials explained how a young boy, Lamont Freeman, was only 13 years old for 27 minutes before gang violence ended his life. They accused an Atlanta rapper of making the situation worse by filming a music video in a rival gang's area, knowing it would cause problems. In the days after, 2 more children lost their lives because of it. A law enforcement official stated, "You know who you are. We will work day and night to hold you and your people responsible." The same thing is happening in Jacksonville, Florida. Police have been watching Young and Ace for a long time. A sheriff's official admitted, "We always keep an eye on those groups." I will not talk about the investigation, but I will say this, Young and Ace cannot move around Jacksonville without us knowing about it. And that is for the safety of the community. Inside the courtroom, K Flock has been going through a tough time. The weight of the trial has been heavy on him, and it is clear that he has been feeling a lot of emotions. At times, he looks frustrated, other times deep in thought, and sometimes he seems overwhelmed by everything happening around him. His legal team has been standing by his side, doing everything they can to keep his spirits up. They continue to reassure him, promising that they will not stop fighting until they bring him home. Despite everything, K Flock remains strong, and he wants his fans and supporters to know that he is still holding on. He recently sent out a message to those who have been following his case, letting them know that he has not given up and that he appreciates all the love and support he has been receiving. He spoke from the heart, saying, "I know what is happening, man." It is Flock. "Listen, I just want to say something to the guys. Hey, I will be back very soon. Shout out to my fans and my supporters. I love all of you. And to the young ones out there, focus on the right things, man. Stay on the right path. Do what you are supposed to do. Make the right choices in life and earn your money the right way. I will be back soon." His words carried a lot of meaning, especially for those who have been following his journey from the beginning. He wanted to make sure that the people who support him know that he sees their messages, their posts, and their prayers. He wanted to remind them that no matter how difficult things look right now, he still has hope, and he believes that this situation will not last forever. At the same time, K-Flock took a moment to speak directly to the younger generation. He knows that many young people look up to him, and he wanted to use his voice to send them a powerful message. He encouraged them to stay focused and to make smart choices in life. He reminded them that there is always another way, that they do not have to take the wrong path to find success. Instead, he urged them to work hard, make the right decisions, and earn their money the right way. For someone who is facing serious legal troubles, it is clear that K-Flock is still thinking about others. Even while dealing with his own struggles, he wants to guide the younger generation and help them avoid the mistakes that could lead them down the wrong road. His message was not just about his own situation, it was about making sure that his fans and supporters do not end up in a place like this. Meanwhile, his legal team is working day and night to defend him. They believe in his case, and they are doing everything possible to prove his innocence. They have been reviewing every piece of evidence, challenging every accusation, and making sure that K-Flock gets a fair chance to tell his side of the story. His lawyers understand what is at stake, and they have assured him that they will not stop fighting until they have done everything in their power to bring him back home. But the reality of the situation is still difficult. Sitting in that courtroom day after day, hearing people speak about his life as if he is just another case number is not easy. Every word spoken, every piece of evidence shown, every witness called to the stand, it all has the power to shape his future. And while he is trying to stay strong, there are moments where the weight of it all is clear on his face. Outside of the courtroom, his fans continue to stand by him. Many of them have been speaking out on social media, showing their support and keeping his name alive. Some believe that the system is trying to make an example out of him. Others feel like he is being targeted simply because of who he is and where he comes from. No matter the opinion, one thing is clear: his supporters are not giving up on him, and they are hoping for the best outcome. At the end of the day, only time will tell what will happen next. The legal process is long, and there are still many steps ahead. But one thing is for sure, K-Flock is not letting this break him. He is staying focused, staying strong, and holding on to the hope that one day, he will walk free again. Until then, he wants everyone to remember his words and to keep pushing forward, no matter what challenges they face. But no matter what, the authorities always seem to find a way to keep rappers locked up. This is exactly what Boozy said when he spoke about YNW Melly's situation. He explained, "When the authorities want you, they will do whatever it takes to keep you." I knew they were coming for him when they waited for that law to be passed. They needed that law to make their case stronger. They could have taken him to trial years ago. He was sitting in jail for 2 or 3 years. But they waited for that law to pass and then took him to trial just a few months later. When they want you, they do not let go. Many people believe the system is set up to make things more difficult for artists like K-Flock, and his case is no different. Despite everything, official reports now suggest that his release date could be around 20 years from now.